Let's make a video about a more complicated sewer system. So we'll call this example 2 sewer system part 1. Complicated because it's a restaurant. So in a restaurant, we'll have your typical bathrooms, and that's similar to the just about every other project. Then we'll have some stuff here at the bar. Bar has a hand sink, has a 3-compartment sink, has a glassware washer, it has an ice bin, and all that stuff has to drain somewhere. Then there's an employee bathroom here, hand sinks in the kitchen. Anyways, there's kitchen stuff, and of course there's dishwashing areas and all of that. So let's see how that works. This project, we actually got the information from the architect on the pieces of equipment. So I kind of started doing stuff. Mop sink, service sink. I gave it its drainage, and I know this building's so large that I'm just thinking of taking the sewer out in multiple out of multiple pipes instead of just taking one sewer pipe. And it seems like the main one is here. So what we'll do is we'll come out here, and they'll come out here, and then turn and tie into this later on. So let's start with the simplest stuff, the bathrooms. How do we do the sewer for the bathrooms? Each one has a drainage and a vent. So, and I represent these with circles. The circle is 2 inches in radius, and I take this circle and just put it everywhere there's a fixture, in the middle of it, wherever I can put it here, but so in the center of it, regardless. And then later on we'll move them. So right now I'm just, for the sake of assembly line kind of thing, I'm just putting drains to the center of where I think I'm gonna need. This stuff is gonna be handled differently at the bar, so I'm not gonna do it that way. But there's an employee bathroom, which I already did put something at the toilet and something at the lavatory. There's a hand sink. And of course there's the mop sink, which I already did. So I think that covers that. So then what I'm going to do is take a sewer line straight out this way, straight out. Let's copy one that I already have, and then start connecting things to it. I am gonna put floor drain in these bathrooms. So I'm gonna put that line kind of off center on those bathrooms, so I have room for the floor drain. And this thing snap into a point. I put the I'm gonna put the this doohickey the cleanout inside the building, but off center, because I'm also gonna put floor drains here. And to find the center of the room, I got a couple of tricks. Let's first look to see what the scale of this. We're working at 3/16 scale. That one's in between 1/8 and 1/4. These are drawn at 1/8. Everything on the schedules and legends is drawn at 1/8, and we normally work at 1/8 or 1/4, but 3/16 is halfway there. This is how I make it the size. If this, I think of 1/8 as 10. I think of 1/4 as half of that, or 5. So that means halfway between 10 and 5 is 7.5. I scale it using reference. The reference is 10, and the new length is going to be 7.5. So it does that for me. So then here's a couple of tricks from how to put something in the center of a room. You can draw a diagonal line from one corner of the room to the other. If the room is rectangular, the center of the room will be the middle of that line. Done. Okay. The other way, and it's hard to do in this room. Let's see if I can find a room. Let's say I want to put a floor drain in this storage room. I would put it in the middle of one of the walls, either in the middle of this line or this line, and then I move it from the end of this line to the middle of that line. And if this room is drawn correctly, and I'm going to check, the middle of that line is also the center of the circle, which it is. I'm not going to put a floor drain in the middle of that storage room, but I just wanted to show how I do that. So I want to put a floor drain in this bathroom. I put floor drains in just about every bathroom, unless they specifically ask me not to. It's really not required. It's just nice to have there when it's time to clean that bathroom. You don't have to worry about mopping. On and on. All right, so that's let's finish these bathrooms. If you recall, we drew some circles, put them in on every fixture. Let's start moving them into the wall because that's where they actually are, right? I'll take this quadrant and I take it to this side of the wall. I could take it to the middle. I'm certainly not going to take it to the far side of it. And this building has a bunch of lines because it actually is like a conversion. It was a fitness thing, a Reebok fitness thing. Now somebody's putting a fancy restaurant in it. So I just take all these perpendicular and inside the wall. If I wanted to take the time, in reality, those circles are in the center of the wall, more than likely. All right, so that's it. What else? Well, the toilet actually needs a drain on the floor as well. So, and I copy those 12 inches over. So I'm gonna just do all the toilets at once. There's 3, and I'll explain why in a second. 12, and then I will connect these. There and there. Why there's two toilets in the ladies' room and only one toilet in the men's is because you can substitute a certain number of toilets for urinals. Because you're not always going in there to do number 2. Chances are you're just doing number 1, unless you eat the shrimp. Anyway, so let's start connecting that to that main line. How we connect that is we run a line from there close to it, and then we'll do a chamfer. And when there's 2 lines close together like that, I might just connect this one to there. But right now, I'm just running lines. Now the sinks, there's really no need to run a line from the sink all the way down there. I'm just gonna run a line inside the wall from the sink to the vertical pipe of the urinal and let it drain down, drain across, and then down to the urinal. Again, we gotta connect these. So this is actually where the poop goes, and this is the vent. This one's going to be kind of tricky because they're going to be on top of each other. But again, the lavatory drains into the toilet. So we got to take a line from here to here. I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit because nobody scales that. I'm going to put the floor drain, the center of that floor drain, on top of that line because there's just no way to indicate that graphically. And basically, they can assume that they're going to be connected to the same one. There was some sort of sink here in the storage room. I'm going to call it servicing. And then, so what happens when the line's less than 4 inches, then I'm going to push the thing that sticks out on the wrong side back in. Let the drain stick out towards the fixture we're talking about. That's it. Let's connect that as well. And there we are. Now, we got to show the direction of flow, and we're going to chamfer these. Now, the chamfers we'll do on the sewer, and the chamfers go as follow. If it's we're working with with 1/4 inch scale, we do chamfers or 6 and 6, and if we're working with 1/8 inch scale, we'll do 12 and 12. Those are our most common scales, but we're working with one in between, which is 3/16, and so we'll do 9 instead of 6 and 12. We'll do halfway there, which is 9. So we'll click on the chamfer command, and it's already set up. But let's pretend I'm going to set the distances to 0. And setting the distance to 0, it really means there's no chamfer. It does a 90-degree fillet. If I want to chamfer it, and it says distance 1 and distance 2, so I got to either type D for distance or just click on the distance right here. And like I said, the first distance is 9, second distance is 9, and then when I chamfer this and that, there's a line that would have been 9 inches going this way, and then, so these lines connected are 9 inches long, and that's where that chamfer is. Okay. And the reason I changed that is because if you change the scale of the building, they will show up the same regardless of the scale. I forgot to put a line there, so I chamfered the back of that toilet, but now I got to trim. I don't want lines going through the circles for clarity. I'm going to chamfer this way. I'm going to chamfer over here. And really, there's no 9 inches in between, so it's not going to chamfer. There's no 9 inches between these two. So what chamfer and 9 inches, and if you can remember geometry, you're basically putting a line that's 45 degrees across if both distances are the same. So all I'm going to do here is make a line that's 45 degrees. That one's it's not gonna show up that well, but that's basically what that is. If you have a triangle, an equilateral, it's not equilateral, it's a right triangle. I can't remember exactly what it's called. But if these two distances are the same, that means the line that connects the two is 45 degrees. Let's keep chamfering. The thing about chamfer is it extends the line to where it needs to be to make the chamfer. So you don't have to extend the line, you just continue chamfering. Then I'm going to grab the end of the line because it does trim it and put it in the square. And there we are. That's all we needed. Now remember, each sewer line has a clean out at the beginning and a clean out at the end. Also remember the direction of the chamfers shows us which way the sewer is going out of the building. So that indicates to me that the sewer is flowing down. In some other cases, and like I said, I already started working in this building. I'm trying to see. Oh, well, we have a sample here where we have that. Now, this one indicates to me that the sewer is going to flow left. Okay. And you'll get used to it. So that's it. Also remember, I was saying that each sewer line has a cleanup at the beginning and a cleanup on the outside. This one's not called a floor cleanout. This is a grade cleanout. Now, grade cleanout is cleanout out in the parking lot. So we extend these guys. What else we have here? This is another project, a similar project, another restaurant that I was doing. And I'm going to check. I'm going to copy all these guys to here. The arrow here is going to indicate that, all right, the sewer is coming up this way. What I brought the arrow for is to find out what scale I'm working on. If the arrow size is 5, I was working at a 1/4 inch. If the arrow size was 7.5, I'd be working at 3/16, and if the arrow size is 10, then I'd be working at 1/8 inch. So what that means to me is I gotta scale that up from 5 to 7. I pick a random base point, but I use a reference. Any length that was 5 now is going to be 7.5. Remember that I went from 10 to 7.5, so I remember the second value of 7.5. So I can just right click and enter. So it makes it 1.5 times bigger. And what that says to me is the sewer's flowing down away from the building in that direction. That's it. Then there'll be some notes. And then, of course, this says, hey, look, we just came out of this building. You guys in the field connected to sewer lateral, which means the street sewer. And the best way to find out is the site plan. The site plan would tell us just which way to go. I went out this way because I actually visited this side and I saw that the sewer went that way. There was a clean out here somewhere that indicated that everything was flowing that way. Sometimes you have to go to the site and learn to read the site plan and find out where the sewer line is. And that's something we can do in a separate video. Now let's start putting notes in there. This is a restaurant, and that's why the number of notes for sewer is so extensive. I'm going to take these, but I can remember that this top left-hand corner, I'm going to put it back right there so it shows up in the right place when it needs to be. And I'm going to move my equipment schedule, my kitchen equipment schedule out of the way so I can push this up. And I'm going to edit this as I go. Hopefully they're in a good order that will help me out. Water closet is number one. So I'm going to use this node as a starting point. But remember, we got to scale it down from 10 to 7. So I scale it, type out for reference. Any length that was 10 before, it's going to be 7.5. So I just made it smaller by a factor of 75%. So note number one was water closet. Now the other thing is I'm going to copy this arrow to the center of the node, because in there's an imaginary line that goes, when we trim this to here, there'll be an imaginary line that follows the leader right to the center of the circle. So I start at the center, they all start at the center of the circle, and then I move them to here, because I don't want them attached to here or to a place that isn't. It just looks better if it goes straight through. But I'm going to copy that to the center, and then I'm going to copy this a million times for all the fixtures. So I know a toilet is going to need a note. I know that this floor drain is going to need a note, and I like to keep my notes inside the space. But in this case, because it's so crowded, I'm going to put them outside. So I decided the note for this toilet is going to go here. The note for the floor drain will go inside there. The note for this urinal will go here. The note for this lavatory will go here. And the note for this toilet will go here. Another note for the toilet here. A note for this floor drain here. And a note for this lavatory here. So we said all the toilets is note number one. Okay. This one I'm going to get rid of. And normally I like to point at this part of the toilet, but because we're on the other side, we're just going to point here. Now when we point, I don't want it touching. I want it near it, indicating. And it's also going to be angled a little bit. That way it looks like it's not part of the toilet. There's no confusion. So there's one toilet there. There's a second toilet here. And then I grab this grip and I put it at the intersection, and then there's a final toilet. And if I remember correctly, there's a staff bathroom somewhere. So I'm going to borrow this note. And go over here, see if I noted that one, and I didn't. So there it is. There's a lot of stuff here that will be turned off. So don't let this wire shelves inside of the dry storage room confuse you. If you look at paper space, a lot of that stuff's turned off, and it's a little cleaner. All right, so toilets. Then let's go back to the notes and see what number 2 says. Lavatory, provide 2-inch connection to sewer and vent system. Lavatory is just a fancy name for a sink in the bathroom where you wash your hands. From the Latin. All right, so that lavatories are number 2. So there's one there. I'm going to point at it without touching it and make sure I'm a little bit of an angle. That's a 2. Okay. This is going to be very handy because I started with a restaurant and I'm working on a restaurant. So the notes are going to almost be tailor-made. There'll be some changes because not all restaurants have the same kind of equipment in them. But we'll be close. There's only one lavatory per bathroom, so we're good to go there. I'm going to borrow this note because I'm going to use it to indicate the lavatory in the staff bath. It's not a 1, but a 2. And there's my arrow. And I'll trim it. Let's go back. Number 3, urinal. We know there's a urinal. Provide 2-inch connection to sewer and vent system. So there's a 2-inch pipe that the urinal connects to. And here we are. I'll trim it, and that was item number 3. Okay. Item number 4, floor drain with trap primer. Now there's 2 types of floor drains, one with trap primer and one without. A trap primer is a water supply inside of the floor drain that fills the trap when the water in the trap dries out. The purpose of the trap is it's a U-shaped pipe under the fixture that keeps the gases from the sewer line backing up into the room, so you don't smell what's inside there. There's a water seal that keeps the air from coming back. You may have noticed them under the sink. If you drop your ring in there, then you can take the P-trap, and that's what that is. You take the P-trap out and it catches things. Well, it's not made for catching things. It's made so that sewer gases don't escape back into the room. But when you have a floor drain that doesn't get used very often, it dries out and the gases will start escaping, and that's why you put a trap primer. So it may or may not be needed here, but I like to put it in bathrooms because you just don't know how those get cleaned. In some cases, they get cleaned by being hosed down and scrubbed down, and then all the dirty waters gets pushed towards the floor drain. In some cases, they just get mopped, and the floor drain actually never gets filled. And so the water in it will eventually evaporate. So that's a floor drain with trap primer, item number 4. So in the bathrooms, floor drain with trap. I think I noticed I didn't put one in the staff bathroom. So let's find the center of this room. And I'm going to put a floor drain there. So I'll put it in the middle of this line, and I'm going to move it from the end of this line to the middle of the line, and that's where it will be. It seems like I'm not going to have enough room to make a turn there. So what would I do here? Just for graphical purposes, I'm going to push it to the left, and I kind of just arbitrarily decided that, but I think is the easiest thing to make sure we show the connection both from and I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to say I'm going to put that there, that way I know how far it needs to go. And then I'm going to move it again so that these line up. I'm going to move this perpendicular to this line that I already drew, and I'm going to extend everything. This is not so much design but graphics. I'm going to extend that one there. I'm going to extend that one here, and I'm going to trim the part of it that's inside the circle so that there's no line in the circle. And then this one, I'm going to actually give it its own connection to the main line right there like that. And this one that was coming from this hand sink, I'm going to stretch it the other way. I'm going to take this endpoint and stretch it perpendicular to that. Let's go on paper space so it's a little cleaner looking. So there's my floor drain. I think that one needs a trap primer because it is inside a bathroom, and it may or may not get used often. If we know for sure it's getting used often, then we don't have to put a trap primer. They look the same on the outside, but they have like a little internal part that makes them different. I think that was item number 4. There we are. Now, places where we have floor drains, where the bar, where we know for sure it's going to see water often, because just I worked at a bar before, and you always spill in something, and the best way to clean it is to squeeze it down to the floor drain. So floor drains in here will have one be trap primer, and I decided earlier that these aren't required because when I point at them, I'm going to call them out as what they are. What else? And let's see. I want to make sure the size of these is right, so I'm going to copy one that I know the size is right. I kind of started working on these, and I caught myself halfway through. So yeah, size is right. So these are some floor drains in here that are indeed not primer. And the kitchen, the way to clean a kitchen is, the best way to clean a kitchen is to scrub it, push everything down towards the floor drains. And I'm gonna put just about every fixture needs to be vented. So I'm gonna put a vent at the end of all these floor drains. The floor drains have to drain this way, and I'll explain why in a second. This line here is different from the other one. It's called a grease waste line. A grease line goes to something called a grease trap. It separates grease from the water so that you're not dumping grease into your sewer line, because eventually when the grease gets cold, it clogs up the line. So anything that's dishwasher related, here's where they wash the pots, and here's where the dishwasher itself, and also here's a pre-rinse sink where you pre-scrub before you put it in the dishwasher. All of that waste has to be separated because it has grease in it. So there's actually a line type for that. It's called grease, and show up because the LT scale isn't right. So let's see what the LT scale of this building is. Is 1. Let's change it to 24, see what happens. It shows up, and also what it shows up is the nice hidden lines. I don't like the text to read up from top to bottom, so I'm going to rotate this. Oops. I'm going to rotate this from the middle of it 180 degrees. My text should read from bottom to top and only from left to right. And that stays consistent with the sheet numbering and everything else. So let's match the properties of this grease waste line to this grease waste line that connects here into the kitchen. And so it's reading upside down. I also don't want that. So I'm going to rotate it from the center. That's the center. I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees, and now it looks right. There's a floor. There's a floor cleanup in the kitchen. And what I was going to do, actually, this isn't right. I guess I originally didn't plan on doing it that way. I should, though. Let's do it that way. I'm going to get rid of this one and put in. I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going to move this floor cleanup up to that line. And here's why. Of course, it has to be a cleanout in this line in case something gets backed up. I'm going to trim this right there. Now, the line continues to here is because it has to go up so it can be vented. What a vent does is, think of a Coca-Cola bottle. If you flip it upside down and you take the lid off, the soda will spill out, but it will gurgle, and it'll take more time. Now, if you put a hole on the bottom of the bottle, which is now upside down, which would be on the top, then the water will drain more quickly, as quickly as the air can enter. So that's what we extend the line over here. We run a line up in the wall, and it actually penetrates. They all connect together, and there'll be a penetration on the roof that lets air into the system. So even the sinks, and that's what that note means: connect to sewer and vent system. The vent system lets air into the system so that water can drain better. And I'm going to trim the lines that go to these floor drains, so they look a little near. So I'll put 2 floor drains in the kitchen near where the prep takes place and near where the cooking takes place. Same thing here. As soon as we exit the building, we're going to need a grade clean out. I'm going to trim this right here. I'm going to need a grade clean out. It's got to be within within 5 feet from the edge of the building. And I don't have to worry about where it is under the stairs. It can be under the stairs as long as it can be found. So this one doesn't connect to the sewer lateral. It's a grease line, so it actually connects to a grease trap. The side plan. So the civil engineer who develops the side plan will select a place to put that in. A grease trap is passive baffle tank, and if you notice, grease tends to float above water. So um, basically, it lets the water pass below, and it retains the grease in a compartment that it gets emptied by once a month by somebody who's in the business of cleaning grease traps. A messy job, not nearly as messy as the septic system guy, but pretty close. So then, and of course, there was a sewer line here for stuff, the non-grease related stuff in the kitchen. Uh, Technically, actually, the mop sink is grease related because you can clean your greasy mop in there, but there's just no way to take that there. So we're going to kind of cheat the system a little bit and connect it to the regular waste. If at all possible, let's connect it to the grease waste, but there's just not going to be enough drop to get it there. And if what I mean by drop is um, uh, drainage pipes are sloped ever so slightly so that the water can flow in the direction we want it to flow. It's for every foot of travel that we're required to have at least a minimum of 1/8 of an inch drop. All right, so I think we got just about everything here. Let's continue down the list here then. A floor drain. So that's number 5. Those are the ones in the kitchen. Number 4s are the one with trap primer. The number 5s is the ones that are going to be in the kitchen. Let's go back to paper space so we can see better what we're doing. I think here's what happened. I just realized this. Somebody just wants me to put the floor drain right there and right there. Okay. And so we're looking at something that looks so busy that I totally missed that. So I'm going to take those guys and put them where they want them. I'm going to put that floor drain right here. And of course, because it moved to the left, I got to stretch this to the right. And it's sort of personal preference. And I'm going to stretch all of this, the center of this floor drain to the center of this circle where the floor drain should be. I'm going to still keep my floor clean out here. And then I'm going to stretch my vent to inside as well. And the reason I don't connect this hand sink to the grease waste, even though it's the closest thing, is because you don't run regular waste through your grease trap. There's no need to make it work harder than it needs to. Yep, I think we are. And then so these guys actually go away. Because I have 2 floor drains now there. And I'm going to go back to putting the notes on them. So they were node number 5. So there's 2 of them, one here. Once I set one up, I can just copy straight over. 5. If they repeat, they're similarly located, I can just take the note and not have to generate a new note. Just move that one, copy that one over there. But then I spoke too soon because it's right on top of that. So I'm just going to mirror that, get it out of the way a little bit. And we're good. 5. So that's all the floor drains. Let's turn this off. 6. Floor sink. Okay, what is a floor sink? Well, a floor sink is similar to a floor drain, but is recessed into the floor. Think of a sink in the floor. And it looks like that. Let's see some images. Probably do us better to see some images. We'll see one at work. There we go, perfect. Oh, you know what? The next one's better. A floor sink. It's something inside the floor where things drain into. And we don't hard pipe. We don't connect it directly. We let it just drip into it. And why is that? Well, say there's a sewer backup. We don't want the sewer backing up from below into our pipe and into a place where we sanitize things. So basically, we don't want crap in our dishwasher or any place where we sanitize things. So those require an indirect connection. An indirect connection is something that is in hard pipe. We just let the water from this three compartment sink or dishwasher or whatever just drip into the floor sink. Let's see if I can get a good view of a floor sink, a better one. So there, this sink is draining right into there, and there's a basket in there to catch. So this could be this is the dishwasher sink or the pre-rings for the dishwasher. So everything that gets through doesn't get scraped off, falls in, and there's a basket that catches it, and then it drains. So what needs a floor sink? As I mentioned, the three compartment sink in the kitchen, the dishwasher, and the pre-rinse sink. At the bar, similarly, the glassware washer, this thing right here, number 56, the ice bin, where you just dump ice and it just drips, drips, drips until it melts, and then the three compartments. Those need floor sinks. So I already put a floor sink near the dishwasher and the pre-rinse sink, and both of them will drain into here, and we'll indicate that in the form of a note, and then this one will drain by itself. There's no need to run a pipe. I guess we could do that, run a pipe across the wall all the way on the back and have it drain into here, but I just rather put a separate. Now the thing about floor sinks is they're also floor drains. So any water that's on the floor, if it's pitch right, any water that's on this floor also will drain into there. And if you want to drain things, if you want to drain pipes into it, they come with a half screen. Let me see if I can find one with a half screen in the pictures. Well, oh, here we go. So it's open end for the pipes, and then a half screen for drainage. So all this water you see here puddling, you wouldn't put a, there's no need to put a floor drain here because there is a floor drain there in the way of a floor sink. When I say floor sink, I don't mean a sink on the floor. It's a sink that's recessed into the floor. That's what these things are called, floor sinks. All right, so how do we do that? We put our floor sink near the three compartment sink, a floor sink near the dishwasher and the pre-rings, and I'm going to borrow this. And this is a three compartment sink in the kitchen. Now we're going to put it near the three compartment sink in the bar. Let's try it at the center and see what happens. Well, guess what? We're actually not going to drain towards the left. We're going to drain towards the right. I'm going to mirror this. And I'm going to stretch it to the sewer line that's picking up the toilets. Now, why is this three compartment sink not connected to grease, but the one in the kitchen is? Because this one is to wash greasy plates and greasy pots and greasy things. This one's to wash glasses and things at the bar. Now, I'm going to have to stretch the vent of it to the nearest wall, so I'm going to stretch it to this wall. Now, there's three things that drain into there. What for? This hand sink, I'd rather not give this hand sink a separate drain because there is no wall here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain it into this floor sink. Also going to drain this three compartment sink here into it. I'm also going to drain this glassware washer. So some bars have a dishwasher just for glasses at the bar, rather than have you carry them to the kitchen, have them clean in the kitchen, and then brought back. They never make it back. Because when you're working at the bar, you need glasses right away, and what you end up doing is washing them by hand here. And the fourth thing connected to the floor sink is going to be this ice bin. So what I need to do is kind of put this in the middle of them, so we're not running too many pipes. And I'm going to run it so by eye. I'm just going to put it like right there. That's it. So floor sink, item number 6. Let's get to labeling these guys. And after we label these guys, we're going to say what we're going to connect to them. That's a 6. That's a 6. And this is a 6. Let's go to the paper space so we can see it a little better. So I don't want to be on it, in it. I just want to be pointing at it. That'll be a little bit of an angle. I trim this and I change that. I'm going to change them all at the same time because why change something 4 times when you can do 4 at once? 6, right? So then I'm going to stretch the arrow, point at it. If I'm pointing at something inside of it, then I will be inside of it, but I'm not. Item number 6, done. All the floor sinks are done. Oh, wait. I'm pointing at something else here, right? Fix that. Item number 6 done. What's item number 7? Okay, here's where we say what's connected to that floor sink. Well, the waste drain from the 3-compartment sink is number 7. And where does the 3-compartment sink drain? It drains to that one. So I'm going to copy this guy and put it right there next to it and give that a number 7. So a 3-compartment sink. Also, the one at the bar. Even though they have different purposes, they're still 3-compartment sinks. So this one over here also is a number 7 because that 3-compartment sink drains into that floor sink. Number 8, waste drain from the pre-rinse. Here we go. We're going to combine these two, 8 and 9. The pre-rinse and the dishwasher are 8 and 9, and they drain into this one. So I'm going to copy this note twice from this quadrant to this quadrant to this quadrant. So that's 8, and that's 9. So now we know the pre-rinse, run the waste from the pre-rinse to this floor sink, and run the waste from the dishwasher to this pre-rinse. And this is the dishwasher, item number 21, whatever that is. That dishwasher is right there. So the dishes get brought here. This is where they get stacked. This is where somebody scrubs the gunk out of them before putting them in the dishwasher. The dishwasher comes out, and this is where the clean dishes come out. And that also drains. It's part of the drainage system. And so you could drain that into there as well. Probably drains into, and it probably drains into the dishwasher. And if it doesn't, it overflows. As I mentioned, floor sinks are also floor drains. So any water that overflows from here is going to fall into one of these 2 floor sinks. That one or that one. All right, let's continue here. Dishwasher, right? 10, ice bin. So the ice bin is here and drains into this floor sink. So we'll copy that one from the same reference point to the same reference point. We'll call that 10. 11, waste drain from drain board. A drain board is these guys where you put dishes to drain. So let's see if we actually have a drain board on our list, and I don't think we do. The other one did. The other one had a dedicated 24-inch table with little holes where you put your glasses upside down and it drains. Instead of dripping on the floor, it gets collected into a pipe and taken to the floor sink. So we don't have a drain. We don't have a drain board. We do have a glassware washer, and we do have one hand sink that we're going to drain into. Instead of moving both of them up, I'm going to flip this one up on top of it, and number 11 becomes waste drain from hand sink. So that this hand sink here gets drained into there. So that's number 11. If you notice, number 12 is the glassware washer. So I'm going to get ready. 11 for the hand sink, and then 12 for the glassware washer. What else? Ice makers. Here we go. Ice maker also. So we missed something here, right? I gotta put a floor sink over here. I'm gonna copy this guy. This project has 2 ice makers, and I know this because I've done some work on it already. So I'm gonna put it near it, and I'm gonna stretch it back. It definitely only has one thing connected to it, so there's no need to show all of that. I'm going to flip it upside down so it's not conflicting with the stairs. That's just a graphical thing. It seems to me that it would be clear to read that way. And then I'm going to stretch its sewer line across to there. So what's happening here, there's a floor sink near an ice maker. And this restaurant has 2 ice makers, one right here. So we'll deal with that in a second. 6, floor sink, drain from ice maker. So that'll be 13. So the ice maker drains into there. Indirect waste, just like the other ones. And while I have a floor sink with a note, I'm just going to copy it over there to where the other ice maker is. And I'm going to put it here because I believe that's the soda dispenser. So I'm going to put I could pick either side, right? I don't want to pick the side that or near other equipment rather than have to travel long distance. I put it in between. This one doesn't get chamfered because I want it to have a vent. So 6 and 13. And this one actually supposedly comes with its own trench. I don't like that idea. I don't know. Why would you want to drain that to the middle, the waste from the water from the dishwasher? I'm sorry, from the ice maker out to here and then back. So I just want to drain it to here. If that's not accurate, let them tell us. So what's happening here? Well, that all those lines are kind of be in the way. So I'm going to push these guys in this direction rather. Angle my arrow a little bit and reverse the order of these. I want to work not necessarily from left to right, but the first thing I'm pointing at is the actual floor sink itself. So what do we have connected to this guy? We have an ice maker. Whatever 28 is, we'll check that, and whatever 33 is. My memory boy. 33, 28, and 5. 5. Ice maker. It does require a waste. There it is. 28. No, that's a bread warmer, so it doesn't need that. Stainless steel beverage dispenser beverage. There it is right there. So it doesn't say that it needs one, but where does the overflow go? It goes somewhere, right? So I'm going to say connect waste drain from ice maker. I'm going to say connect waste drain from number 33, which is the soda dispenser. So notes 13 and 14 will be connected to that. 13. And I'll change that to 14. All right, what else? All right, so there's things we didn't connect yet. Rather than move all these up, I'm just going to move the prep sink up and leave those where they are. So 18 becomes 15. A prep sink is a sink in the kitchen where you would prepare vegetables or whatever. I'm gonna well, it's not labeled, but I'm gonna assume that's the prep sink where I don't know, you wash your vegetables and things like that. So we'll give this a note. I'm gonna put it out here so it's not on top of all these lines that make up that prep sink. I think I missed my mark. So I'll do it again. Helps me sleep at night. That was 15. Press. 16 is hand sinks. Just about every place where there's food preparation, there has to be a hand sink, or anything that's served to the public for consumption, either cooked or mixed as a beverage. That's 13. Where's the 13? Oh, my memory. No, 15. What in the world? 15 is prep sink. 16 is hand sink. I suspect as big as this kitchen is, there might be another hand sink on the other side, and there it is right there. So another 16. I can do, I could copy a 16 over there and play with the arrow, or I can copy the 15 and just change the number. So I'm going to do that in this case, but it's going to be on top of those lines, so I'm going to mirror it. And that becomes a 16. Double click it, type 16. Ready. 17 is a service sync. Service sync is another fancy name for mop sync. So I'm going to copy this guy. And I just double check that it's still 7.5. I've been copying errors from all over the place, and I don't want to have. And see, this is what I don't. It's not the end of the world that this is not right, because the difference is kind of minor. The end of the world to me. So, I don't know what the sink here and this storage room is, but it seems to me that the building is so big. Somebody said, "Hey, let's put another service sink in here, so that the guys cleaning the bar don't have to go all the way across over there to get mops and things." Right. This building is already built, which means you're not trying to save square footage since you already have the building. Normally, you put a mop sink somewhere in the middle so everybody can access it. So you save money on plumbing and whatever, and you have a little more square footage inside the whatever. What else? The other place had a whole bunch of stuff going on. So let's see what we did here. The refrigerator, I use this line to cross out my work. So the refrigerator doesn't need a drain. The double burner pasta cooker may, but it doesn't. The ice maker does, the ice bin does, which we already took care of. The floor trough, that's the thing that they want us to drain into, but I chose not to. In front of the ice makers is the floor trough. So no. Hand sinks, we did those. The gas fryer doesn't need a drain. Neither does the range or the exhaust hood. The sectional range, that's a stove. Shelving doesn't. Oh, the floor mixer, that's a planetary floor mixer to mix dough. That doesn't need a drain. Storage shelving doesn't. Neither does the oven. The stainless steel work table doesn't. The heater doesn't. Stainless steel pot shelf, that's a shelf, no. Wall mount faucet, which is part of the clean dish table. Does, but we already did that. The dish machine, the upright dish machine does. The condensate hood doesn't. A faucet, that's part of the dish table, soil dish table. We did that. So we took care of these. A glass rack ceiling mounted, that's for dry stuff. No. A broiler doesn't. A food prep table doesn't. The bread warmer doesn't. The reaching freezer doesn't. The freezer on the counter doesn't. The coffee brewer, sometimes it does. So let's put a line on it just so that we know that we're. It'll say here direct drain or indirect drain, 1 to the 4th or 5th column from the end. So it doesn't. It's not one of those that is huge. Stainless steel beverage counter. There's not. Beverage dispenser. It said it didn't, but I put one on there because we know there's waste. The iced tea brewer. I suspect is the same as the coffee maker, and there's nothing here indicating any kind of drainage. The walk-in cooler doesn't need a drain, neither does its coil. These are pieces of kind of the same equipment: the walk-in cooler, walk-in freezer. They divide it into 3 separate things. The shelves in the cooler and freezer don't. How about the espresso machine? It says it needs a drain at 1.25 inches. I don't do 1.25 inches, I do 2. So we got to find item number 42 and connect it to its nearest floor sink. 42. I suspect is near the soda machine. Dun 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 dun. Alright, so let's wow, we're gonna make this one go that way. So we gotta find out what number this is. And I like all my connect waste drains to be in the same neighborhood. So I'm going to take this prep sink from 15 and make it 18 and go over here and make sure I do that. 18. So then I'm going to make this a 15. And I copied in advance, and now I'll come back and fix it at 50. I kind of want to stay, all the things that are in the same family to stay close together. So that was connect waste drain from, instead of soda dispenser, espresso machine. Many S's there. All right, good to go. Where are we? We were looking at this. The left was blank, and they left them blank because they moved on to the bar. So the 50s, they made it nice for us. The 50s are the bar stuff. So there's no 43 to 49. The freezer doesn't need a drain, neither does the refrigerator or the bottle cooler. That's a blank one. The underbar 3-compartment sink, we did. The speed rail is where you put your liquor bottles. You can grab them handily. The glassware washer, we did. The ice chest. Let's just double check. That was 57. I know I did it, but 57. That's the ice chest. And I don't know what 58 is. Let's see. I know the speed rail. Again, that's a little rack where you put the liquors that you put your vodkas, your bourbons, your whiskeys, and things that everybody drinks, your rum. So you have those handy. The real crazy stuff that nobody hardly drinks, those are up on the shelf, on the top shelf, and that's why they're called top shelf. So the spare obviously is the POS. That doesn't mean piece of shit. That means point of sale, which is the computer that they use for either entering orders or for you to pay. And the split system evaporator. That also does not need drainage. So that right there concludes how we do a drainage on a more complicated project. I'll clean it up a little bit. I'll come back and size these lines. And I explained that in the earlier project on how to size a simple thing. All right, that concludes this video. Oh, lastly, I guess I gotta finish this. I gotta label my cleanouts, obviously. Clean out, they're all 19s, 19, and this is a 20 because it's a two-way grade cleanup. There's no beer drip, there's no hot food well, there's no remote beverage cooler, there's no waste drain from filter system or the chef's counter. So all these guys go away. We want to make sure this distance is 12. For some reason, I was doing 10s before, and I knew that would be a 10. So I'm just going to move this 2 inches down. And then I'm going to draw a line that's 12 inches down and across. And I'm going to stretch this up with this associated note up perpendicular to that. And now I know I'm 12 inches from it. Looks pretty that way, at least to me. Now I got to return this back to where it came from. So I put it right there. That way when I go to paper space. Well, tricky, right? Because the building is so big, it's not going to fit here. I could try to move it to here and up and see what happens. Stretch it down, but there's so many notes that it's going to need more than, yeah. So here's what I'm going to do. And what I did before is I split it in half, and that's exactly what I'm going to do this time. So I'm going to make a copy of it, and this is kind of tricky, and it takes a few times to figure out what I'm talking about. I'm going to make a copy of it next to it. Not move, copy. Come on. And this are these yellow lines that are sitting there coming handy. So what do I want to go to? I want to go to 12. So I'm going to stretch my viewport to below 12. Okay. Right there. So it cuts everything off. The problem is because there's no line there, I'm going to have to put an artificial line there. And because that's not a real intersection, that's beyond inside of the viewport, I'm going to move it to here. But AutoCAD actually lets you move it perpendicular into an object, perpendicular there. Those lines are never touching, but when you print, and let me just show what happened here. If I print, let's make sure everything's right. If I hit print and I do a preview of what I'm printing, the first set of notes will be boxed in, but the second set won't be because there's not a line beyond. Okay, and that's why this yellow line needs to be here, closing that. I'm going to exit that and show you what I do. Well, I want to retain the top. So what I do is I take this viewport and I stretch it to where I can barely see the bubble to the number 1, but I can't see the text. Then I'm going to copy either one of those viewports and start at 13. So I'm going to stretch it to here and just show number 13 right there. So now I can take this circle, I can take this viewport, and from the top of the circle, put it on the top of the circle, and they'll be connected. The paper space won't know that something funny is going on. Oops. Preview. The paper space won't know that something funny is going on. I guess you can almost see that there's two things happening there, right? And what I do then is I'll stretch the second viewport. So this viewport here, I'm going to stretch it down to there, and now there isn't two objects, there's only one, right? And then is what it looks like. So now I got to bring this inside my sheet so that paper space doesn't get confused. And I hit print preview. Then you'll see how neat this boxes show up. I didn't make a note. I didn't make a box that starts on 13. I used viewports to manipulate it to make it look like it did. And so now I have two boxes and all my notes fit. Let's see. I think I said I was going to finish this video, but then I keep finding things. Over here, I need to extend this viewport down a little bit because my notes didn't show up. And I will fix that. Put a note here for the grade cleanout. That would be a number 20. So I'm going to have to stretch down a little bit. These will be 20s because they're different than these floor cleanouts in here. But that's all I have to do. And I just caught a mistake right here. When I move that sewer line, I forgot to stretch that to connect to it. So if I look at this line, it looks like the line is draining that way towards this pipe. And then when it gets to this pipe, it is going to drain down. And that's what the chamfers indicate, which way we're going. I'm going to finish off camera putting the notes on the drains. I'm sorry, on the cleanouts, and this sheet will be done. This concludes sanitary sewer for complicated projects. This would be example 2 of just sanitary sewer.